We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us this beautiful afternoon. And I wanted to introduce the topic. The topic is Cloud Infrastructure of the Future. This is a very exciting topic. And I'm so glad for us to be able to have with us two subject matter experts. We have Ramesh Rasia, Head of Managed Infrastructure Services and Private Cloud from T-Systems. Thank you, Ramesh, for taking the time to be with us here. And we also have Osman Amoroso, who's our cloud architect from Dell Technologies. So we're going to have a good time today because two of these are recognized experts in their field, right? Now, before we get on to the subject proper, I'm also very pleased to have Phil Patton, the Asia Pacific General Manager for Cloud Service Providers, to kick us off in this session. So over to you, Phil, for the introduction.
Thanks, Ian. And thank you all, as Ian said, for joining us here today on what we hope will be a really enlightening next hour or two. We're excited about the opportunity here today with T-Systems, who is one of our global technology partners at the highest level in our program at a titanium level. As a partnership, what we like to bring with T-Systems to the marketplace is opportunities for you as customers to really take control of your cloud journey. Together in partnership, we can actually help you make those decisions on workloads and infrastructures that will allow you to move into that future environment where cloud is becoming so present today. I'm not going to talk for long. In fact, that's probably pretty much all I've got to say, because the journey that Ramesh and Osman are going to take you on is something that you should pay attention to. We've heard a lot about cloud, and cloud is a word that is broadly used across the marketplace today. But we believe that what T-Systems and Dell Technologies can actually bring to you together is a really exciting opportunity. So I'm going to hand back to Ian, who's actually going to take you and hand over to the team today. But excited to be here. I'll be here for the duration of the presentation. So if there are any broader questions that you have on Dell Technologies and our commitment to the cloud infrastructure marketplace across Asia Pacific and Japan, and more importantly, Southeast Asia, please just pop a question in there in the Q&A and we'll answer that towards the end. Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for that great introduction. As again, I've said, I'm really excited about this topic. Cloud is really a major force in future that we have today, particularly with the challenges of today. So we're really excited to have a recognized subject matter expert, Ramesh, to share with us. So over to you, Ramesh, and take us on this journey.
Hello, hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome for these. To introduce myself, I'm the head of management. Yeah, hi. So I'm the head of managed infrastructure services for Singapore, working for T-Systems for the past 10 years, and has been in this industry for the past 21 years. I'd like to briefly run through you with T-Systems managed infrastructure cloud services with the collaboration of Dell Technologies. I would run through this high-level presentation with you on how T-Systems could be your partner on operating your cloud services for the future with the support of Dell Technologies. Just a high-level fun fact about Deutsche Telekom. T-Systems is part of our Deutsche Telekom group. We are now combined into T-Mobile and T-Systems. T-Mobile is actually focusing on the cell phone technologies. Meanwhile, Deutsche Telekom is a big network itself in Germany and Europe. They're very strong. And overall, T-Systems is an ICT provider, and we have a global presence. Just going into the next slide to give you some fun facts. Our global presence, as you can see, we are actually globally present in most of the continents. And also here locally in Singapore, we have the regional office for the Southeast Asia. And we are here focusing on all the offerings that T-Systems as a whole is offering globally. And just a little bit more of information, T-Systems consists approximately about 38,000 employees. We have more than 600 customer base across the industries, focusing on all layers of different industries. And we are the #1 ICT provider in public and also automotive in Germany, as you know. I would like to also use this catchphrase that I've taken from Keith Krach, founder of DocuSign. The industry is moving towards automations, and now the key word or the catchphrase is speed. So if you are not fast enough, you'll be actually left out in the industry. So many things, as you can see, 20 to 40% of the industries are automated and it's supported by AI. Everything that we see as a process can be automated. As we go into this light of speed of technology, vast changes, every companies and SMEs has to also catch up to that. And you know, already now, I can give you a simple example of Nokia, how they were the industry leaders 20 years back and how they are now trying to catch up with other players who came years later. So for us, in this section, we want to share with you how T-Systems provide you the agility from a speed perspective to catch up with the vast changes in the technology so that it could help you to make better decisions for the future. Some of the questions that most of the clients or customers that we have talked around or engaged with always have these questions. What is the best cloud for my enterprise? There is no straightforward answer for this because it varies depending on the strategy of the enterprise itself. Where are they focusing? And some of the key questions that you should ask is, what is your cost? Do you prefer a private cloud or you actually prefer a public cloud? Security and audit requirements. How stringent is your processes and your company's requirement or your government policies that limits you with this kind of constraints? Is flexibility a key for your industry? Is this important for your business that you want to ramp up, ramp down at seamlessly, that you are not contained by or being pulled down by traditional processes? And the other thing is, of course, very importantly, do we have a guaranteed SLA? All these kind of questions comes up to everybody's decision maker in an enterprise organization. And we also then try to address these questions for everyone. So I would like to also share another. Expectations. So when you have questions, where I shared earlier, the expectations from the customer is also sometimes varies because most of the customers that we talk or we engage or we have experienced, they have a go-to cloud strategy. And when we go ask deeper, they always struggle to answer why they have these kind of strategies. Some of them simply is because their competitors are doing this, so they also don't want to be left out. There are some where they change in processes. They want to be more agile. They want to be faster. Yeah? Then they also have a very classical processes or inflexibility, I'll call it, that is limiting them to grow even bigger. Yeah? And of course, is the management way of how they are doing this. Are the people agile trained or they are still on a traditional way of training? So from an expectation of a customer, I would summarize this into 4 different categories. One is the cost, the other one is the speed, flexibility, and management. From T-Systems perspective, when we offer our managed cloud services, we will address all these 4 questions that have from everyone. Yeah? And in a simple 60 seconds debrief, I would like to then address or show you or share with you how you would benefit from this. T-Systems, our cloud managed service offerings, is not only addressing the top level management, but is actually addressing every layer of the businesses. That starts from the head of procurement up to the board of management, because every layer of these decision makers, they have different targets, different KPIs, different priorities. And with T-Systems, we are here to offer and also to provide you all these questions, concerns that from our perspective, it is to the benefit of the customer. Quickly, just to cover up what we are doing from a managed operations perspective, we are platform independent. We do not differentiate between a public and a private cloud or even a classic IT solutions. We manage it with a single process. We have the global team, which has the same processes. And this global team are then responsible to manage systems throughout all the different locations of the customers. And we have automations, because as I mentioned earlier, if we are still on a traditional way of working, we cannot be the leading providers. So speed is then supported by our automation with the German technology and engineering standard. We try to then use these processes and automations to every layer of different platforms of the customers. Yeah. I would also like to touch into the integration of how different platforms that can be integrated into T-Systems operation model. As of today, we have customers who have a classical IT, a hybrid cloud, a public cloud, and also a system which runs independently. Their biggest challenge, that what we have noticed based on the surveys and also the discussions that we have, is they do not have a single team who could just manage it in a single process. And also, to be surprised, every cloud offerings have their own processes. Yeah? And in T-Systems, what we try to do is we try to leverage on this. We try to introduce a single standardized processes for the customer. When you make a request, regardless where your systems is or we are operating it from, we will operate it in a very standardized way. So the key word that you need to take out from this discussion would be then standard operation model, a single access to the system and the request to make for you to demand of your orderings, a single SLA to be managed from a different level of platforms that we are offering, and also the protections against your SLAs that we are providing. Yep. With that, I would then also go into the next slide. What are the service packages? We have summarized this into 5 different categories. Basically, from T-Systems perspective, we are able to offer infrastructure as a service. It could be a dedicated infrastructure, it could be a shared infrastructure. More information will be shared by our partner, Osman, on the infrastructure part, but I would like to just give you a high level. From a backup service, a lot of customers have their critical systems. However, their backup services has not been addressed. We are able to offer these services. Business continuity, it's with the current pandemic that we all have experienced, business continuity demand has increased tremendously. A lot of industries, for example, the insurance, the healthcare, they are now expanding vastly because they want to have this business continuity. So we are also able to offer this in the form of a hybrid mode, where you could have it on site, on-prem, remote, or even in a public cloud. And lastly is we call it in T-Systems as MCOS. It's actually Managed Computing OS system. So for us, we are able to operate your OSs regardless in which platforms they are. Just to summarize, from the managed cloud services and solutions perspective, T-Systems is able to operate, manage, and provide you the necessary services from a private cloud, public cloud, and also a hybrid cloud. We are then covering the major pillar. There's 5 different pillars, how we categorize this. It comes from the cloud management, the connectivity, because we are also a telecoms company, as you can see in the previous slides, that our Deutsche Telekom is one of the biggest telecom providers in the Europe and also in Germany. Automation is key for us. So T-Systems is already now operating with full, about 60% to 80% of our infrastructure services are fully automated. Analytics and security. As you can know, that we are also in Singapore, one of the CSA certified security testers, yeah? And we have our SOC center here. And from our perspective, if you have any of these demands and requirements for us to offer you a managed cloud, then T-Systems will be able to offer you this from a perspective of private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud. I would now like to hand over the infrastructure portion to Osman so that he could then quickly run you through with his presentation on how T-Systems is collaborating with Dell Technologies in providing these managed services on top of the technology that Dell is offering to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramesh. We'll now have Osman take over and share with you the Dell Technologies perspective on this critical topic of hybrid multi-cloud. Over to you, Os.
Thanks everyone for joining the webinar. Today I will give you a quick insights on the reality of multi-cloud, on how it can benefit, but at the same time create complexities in the IT team. And this is where T-Systems jointly with Dell Technologies can help. Our usual customer conversation, if we ask them on their IT strategy, they would always say that we want a cloud-first strategy. And most often than not, our assumption is always these 3 hyperscalers as a cloud provider. But in reality, what they want is really a cloud-like experience with the similar attributes of a public cloud. So this is a good analogy. Being the IT team or a service provider, we always assume that we know the solution to the needs of the business units. Now, using the parent-baby analogy, we always assume that we know what the baby wants. Like in this case, we could always assume that the baby would love a plush toy circling around on top of him and concluding that it makes the baby happy. But in reality, from a baby's perspective, he is just actually seeing the butt of the toy circling around and making him really dizzy. Now, if you look at the reality of our customers in a multi-cloud environment, every time we need to move the application to the public cloud, there's a huge part not widely highlighted that we need to re-platform before we can natively go to the public cloud. And right. And once the data is in the cloud, chances of it moving somewhere else is very low, which make it the new silos in this digital era. Like back in the days when the apps in the AIX or Solaris machines stays within that platform for decades, locking them in, similar to what's happening with the public cloud providers right now. And why this is happening is because of the incompatible platforms and would require a different skill set to manage and operate, creating another silo of people for each and every cloud platform. Like back in the days where you need a dedicated AIX admin to manage AIX systems, HPUX admin to manage HPUX, and so on. Now, what's T-Systems and Dell's technology strategy on this? Our strategy from T-Systems and Dell Technologies, whether you're running an existing applications or running cloud-native applications, we are providing with a consistent infrastructure and a consistent operation where you are, be it on Ian, I think, apologies. I think I lost control. Sorry, let me go back very quickly. Some lag here, right? So the secret sauce on how we do this is really leveraging the VMware Cloud Foundation, providing a common platform that bridges the gap between on-premise and public cloud, and to any public cloud out there, giving us the flexibility to move the workload across the different cloud deployments that you have. So now come to the use cases, right? So in terms of use cases, we're actually looking at 3 major use cases. One is providing the infrastructure as a service, or the IaaS. Second is really around the cloud native workload based out of Kubernetes. And the third is the virtual desktop infrastructure. Use case number 1, let's cover first IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. Now, if you look at the stack, right, the offering that we are trying to do together with Tech Systems is actually based on Dell Technologies Cloud. Underneath that solution is actually a hyper-converged platform. What's sitting on top of it is the VMware Cloud Foundation. Now, if coming from an on-premise perspective with these systems, right? So if you remember, right, we have VMware Cloud on AWS. If you look at what's inside the VMware Cloud on AWS, it's actually VMware Cloud Foundation sitting on AWS servers, sitting on inside the Amazon data center. In a similar manner, what we did with the other hyperscalers is like Microsoft Azure, IBM, GCP, Oracle, and so on. It's all running on VMware Cloud Foundation. Now, with these systems running your workload on-premise, it's actually based on DTC, Dell Tech Cloud Platform. And that platform also is actually using VMware Cloud Foundation. This actually creates your hybrid link connectivity. And the one on top is your multi-cloud architecture. So what that means is if you have any workload sitting on-premise, you can actually virtually migrate it to the public cloud online. And in a similar manner, you can move workload from any of the hyperscalers back on-premise without the need to shut down your applications. So out in the market, this is the only solution that is capable of doing that one. Second use case is around cloud native workload. Okay, so give me a second. Right. So according to IDC, 60% of the global GDP by 2022 is driven from a digital transformation. And the key elements to achieve this is to have a competitive advantage. And the way to do it is, number 1, getting more insights out of your data. Second is really modernizing your software. And most of the organization is actually embracing cloud native applications now. And before, most of the software development and methodology is using a waterfall approach, which is very lengthy and rigid in terms of releasing new features. With cloud native, we are using the agile methodology, which is really a fast fail approach, giving the capability to release new features almost instantaneously. From an application architecture perspective, traditional applications are very monolithic and rigid. While the new approach, we are using a microservice architecture that enables rapid deployment of new softwares and new features. Now if you look at it, right, this is just a quick illustration on how I compare a cloud native application versus a traditional application. The difference between a monolithic and microservices application, let's take a video streaming app as an example. To create this app, we need a couple of key services. Like if you look at Netflix, there's key services are around front-end interface, content upload, content stream, and so on. In a microservice architecture, we are actually decoupling these features to multiple components independent with each other. Now, if let's say I need to scale my application, in a monolithic architecture, we have to create multiple copies of this giant application, making it very rigid. In a microservice architecture, if I see more users coming in, I need to scale the front-end interface independently with the rest. In a similar manner, if I need to upload more content, I just scale the content upload service and so on. Okay. Now, in terms of cloud-native application, in adapting microservices, there's no doubt Kubernetes is the clear winner in automating the deployment, in scaling, and in managing the different containers. Now the challenge is where we see is it's very fragmented ecosystem in terms of adapting Kubernetes, creating complexity in the organization. So there's hundreds of projects out there that requires high-touch integrations, creating operational complexity that leads to technology and business risk. Another insight to that is we always assume that cloud native is all about containers, but actually, it's actually a combination of both virtual machines and containers. For example, right, in running a typical application, probably, for example, SCD, one of the database, the VMs, the database is actually sitting on a virtual machine, while the front-end services is a containerized service. So, and then the fastest way of consuming both Kubernetes and VMs is really leveraging an engineered platform with Tanzu sitting on top of the VxRail. That delivers the development velocity, highest flexibility, operational simplicity, and provide the optimal code quality of your application. Third use case is really around virtual desktop infrastructure or VDI. Now, if you look at the anatomy of a user data, we actually see several components. So you will see the virtual machines and the OS, the user profile, the applications that you are using to be productive, and the secure data that is only accessible to select authorized people. With this kind of structure, there has been a lot of security and management concerns that is continuously bugging our IT team. Now, if we compare a traditional deployment of desktops, right? How the VDI work is really separating the hardware from the digital identity. So this is to help and reduce the security and management challenges from an IT perspective. And how we do that is really the same platform that we are offering from the other use cases. It's actually the VxRail platform, and what sits on top of it is really the Horizon View. So what this one gives you the capability to actually run VDI on the same platform where you're running IaaS, where you're running cloud native applications. Now, come to the joint solution that we have together with T-System. Here's the offering that we have together with them. So we have a T-System managed cloud powered by Dell Technologies. We can actually offer a base offering, which T-Systems will actually help in the procurement and installation services. They will provide a data center for a dedicated private cloud. They can also offer operations and monitoring services. And then from there, they can offer an enhanced version wherein they will help you on the application migration and replatforming. They'll give you the capability on backup and data protection. They can also help you on the data center extension and hybrid cloud services so that you can actually move your workflow to and from a public cloud back on premise. And they can also offer comprehensive solutions around security, compliance services, cloud strategy and management, application and software services. Okay, over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Osman. Thank you for both Ramesh and Osman for those great questions. We do have a question and answer session now. But just before that, let me just open it up for you all to give us any questions that you all want to by typing it into the Q&A that you can see on top of your screen. So let me give you that opportunity as we are on time. So we have time for us to go and have everybody just type in if you have questions. We already have one. So let me read that out, but just to stir you up, and we will answer that as we go along. If you can look at the top bar, you will see a Q&A part where you can type in your questions, and we'll just want to accumulate that. And in the meantime, I also wanted to let everyone know that one of the benefits of joining a good seminar like this is T-Systems is offering a workload assessment and something for y'all to take up. And we will be contacting y'all to discuss this. So for T-Systems, they are able to do the design, the transform, the operate, and they will be able to do a quick workload assessment to evaluate your readiness. So that's something for all the attendees to enjoy and take a benefit of it. If you're a customer, please take a look at it and see something that you can benefit from. Because if you want to move to the cloud, it's not going to be just a quick move, right? There's a lot of thinking through for hybrid, particularly whether it's going to be private. Some of the workloads can be on public. Some will have to stay on-prem. So when you have a subject matter expert like T-Systems, powered by Dell Technologies, we can help you take a quick look and then you can benefit from that, okay? All right, maybe what we can do now, since we have some time, is to let Ramesh answer that question from Jivanandam Ranganathan. Ramesh?
Yeah, hi Jiva. Thanks for the question. So the question is, how is T-System different from other providers like AWS, Azure, Google, Alibaba in the managed service offering? So basically, we are not differentiating the public cloud providers. We are actually complementing the public cloud providers by offering our managed services to all these different providers. On top of that, with our own hybrid cloud solutions that we have powered with Dell Technologies. So in this sense, how does T-System complements or benefits as an ICT provider who manages all these different offerings that you have in the organization would be, we are then providing the managed services, we provide the automation layer and the orchestration layer. Yeah. So in my perspective, we are not a competitor of the public cloud, but we are more of a complementer. That means if you have a system that is running on the public cloud, AWS, Google, Azure, and you need to also have a system running in a private cloud, T-System should be your answer, because we are able and capable of integrating all these systems with the processes from a managed service perspective, and also from the SLA-driven requirements that we have shared earlier, okay? Also, just to add in, we are also able to offer similar infrastructure that feels like a public cloud, works like a public cloud, but in the form of a private cloud. It's what we have collaborated with our partners. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Ramesh. Thank you for addressing that. I hope that addresses the question. Why don't we try letting the floor open up for anyone who wants to talk? right? And just ask, freely interact. Let's try that.
Hi, Ramesh, Anthony here. So regarding the on-prem services, on-prem hosting, as well as, so let's say I have an on-prem requirement connected to AWS. Is there any way we can have a the whole solution managed by T-Systems?
Hello, Anthony. Hi, good afternoon. So your question is if you have systems in AWS?
Yes. So let's say currently if I have workloads in AWS and on-prem, if I would like to have all this managed by T-Systems, how do I go about that?
Yeah, that's possible. In fact, we already have customers who are on premise in our data center, and they also have systems in the public cloud. And we have an integration service in between, how to connect them, and we offer these services possibly. I can go a little bit more detail, but in T-System perspective, we are able to offer this, that you have workloads in multiple locations, multiple platforms, regardless whether they are between the public clouds or within your on-premise locations. We are still able to provide a managed service on top of that by interconnecting them. The integration layer is depending of what is your existing setup, and that and also on your public cloud perspective, and then we could then offer a complete overall solution how to integrate between these two different workloads on two different environments. That is a possibility. And we from T-Systems, we are able to do this either with a layer 3 connectivity, yeah, or a WAN connectivity. It always depends of what kind of a solution which is preferred. Okay.
Thanks, Ramesh. Osman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I have another question pertaining more to Dell's side. So if today I'm going to similar scenario that I posted to Ramesh. So I have an on-prem workload and I have a workload in AWS, maybe a smaller workload in GCP. So for me to embark on, let's say I would like to explore VCF, what would the first step be?
Right. So to answer your question, right, I need to ask you another question. If it's running natively on, they're using native AWS EC2 instances, or they're using a native JK instance. If not, within the VCF family, right, within let's say, as for example, AWS, they actually have VMC on AWS. It's actually running VMware Cloud Foundation right now. So essentially, if you have that same platform running on AWS, a similar platform running on Azure, you can essentially move and manage and operate all the workload, be it virtual machines or containers, to any of the public clouds. So one single pane of glass to manage and operate. And added value to that there is, if let's say I'm a customer, I'm currently on AWS, I wanted to ship back my virtual machines back to, let's say, to T-Systems, I can actually do that one online, transparent to the applications. That is if you're running VMware Cloud Foundation to any of the hyperscalers, and similarly on-premise in T-Systems environment as well.
Okay, thanks. No further questions from my side.
Alrighty, we got another question from a very interesting participant whose name is Cloud. I like that. Okay, anyway, it says, Cloud says, how are the security features ensured? By external audit? I'm assuming he means, so I'll open this up for Ramesh to answer first, okay?
Hi, this is Ramesh. So to answer your question, I would like to answer this in two folds. From a managed service perspective, we from T-Systems, we are currently following a few audit security standards that we have, which is stringently followed by from a German engineering perspective. So we can be audited under the ISAE audit. Also from a security perspective, we have our TSEC unit, T-System security unit, that also then could provide additional security services and protocols if required. Auditing perspective, we have external auditors that audit T-System processes, functions, and capabilities on a yearly basis. And independent of that, we also have our internal auditors who does this. From a complete technical perspective, we follow the requirement from the businesses of how stringent they want their security layers to be. Sometimes we call this the realm layer, which is a 3-layer of security phases of an application or user access. And all these are then governed and audited internally and externally.
Okay, and to go ahead, Ramesh.
No, go ahead, please. Thank you.
And from a technology perspective, right, the offering that we have is actually using software-defined networking through NSX. What that means, if let's say on-premise or any of the hyperscalers, wherever you are, we're actually defining your firewall rules, right, and so on and so forth. With the SD software-defined networking technology, it has actually the capability to, once you move your virtual machines to any of the hyperscalers or even on-premise, that security rules, the firewall rules, actually follows a virtual machine. Second is in a typical architecture, we can the firewalling actually happens outside different set of clusters of servers. While with this solution, we can actually do microsegmentation. What that means is within that virtual machine, we can actually define firewall for each and every virtual machine. So what that means, it makes your infrastructure more secure as compared to the traditional way of deploying it. Third is from a hardware perspective and a storage perspective, we actually have data at rest encryption, right? So every time the data is sitting on our platform, it's actually encrypted. And at the same time, once we push this infrastructure on-premise, we actually do security hardening as well. So across the angle, hardware, software layer, network, and the security offering coming from NTT T-Systems that actually provides you a very comprehensive security offering end-to-end.
All right, I hope that answered the question from Cloud. We are rapidly coming up to the top of the hour, so any last questions from anyone? You can type it into the Q&A or you can just unmute and speak now. I see Eric Joshua has unmuted. Hi, Eric. You want to speak and ask a question?
No.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be with us. I wanted to again remind everyone that we have an offer for a quick workload assessment to evaluate your readiness to go to the cloud. thank you so much for taking the afternoon to be with us. We really appreciate it. And on behalf of all the panelists who had fun preparing for this, thank you so much for taking your time. We will be emailing you this offer. And just for everyone, if you have already given us your email, if not, please remember to do that. So in summary, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Let us be your business partner of choice for your hybrid infrastructure integration, your multi-cloud transformation, and I'm sure we can do great things together in this new trend. All right. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we'll just end here. See you then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.